Nvidia's now a $4
Yeah.
trillion worth of company. So it's just
$4
a confluence
trillion.
of
I
factors.
just find this
Yeah,
wild.
you've got to have your FU money ready.
Unless you can afford like 4 times the price tag of whatever it is you're going to buy, you can't afford it.
Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new Techish. It is me, Michael Bahane, the CEO of Parekh and Parekh Jabs, and I am joined with
Abadesi, CEO of Hustle Crew. Let's go.
Let's Go. This is your favorite tech and pop culture show. So I think the first story we got to talk about is it's still layoff season, right? Microsoft has announced a 9,000 person layoff, which is almost 4% of their global staff. So some of you listening might have been laid off because statistically speaking, that's not insignificant. I think the context behind it makes it even more so egregious. So obviously they've laid off now 25,000 people over the last 18 months, which is insane, starting
Wow.
from 2023. But usually, within capitalism, layoffs are normally to do with like the company struggling, the company ain't making no dough. They are making record profits. In Q3 alone, they made $26 billion in profits, not sales, in profits. That's off revenue of 70 billion. So they are highly profitable for a company of that scale. So obviously, listen, everyone's like, it's AI is coming to take everyone's jobs. The picture's more complicated than that, I think. So it is AI, but it's not in the way people think. I don't think it's about automating people's roles and that they've somehow managed to get AI to like do all the work. They are claiming that. They're saying that 30% of their code is written by GitHub Copilot and that, they need fewer technical roles like sales and support. But I think it's about reallocation of capital. Mark Zuckerberg's going out there buying up all these AI researchers. People are plowing in money into compute and they want to invest all that money. And to find the capital to do that, they need to basically get rid of who they think are people that are less essential. Middle managers, now support people, salespeople. This is the kind of cutthroat nature of capitalism, right? It's not just about no more, we're not making no money. It's about we are now in a gold rush and you are surplus to requirements in that gold rush. And unfortunately, that's what can happen sometimes when you are in a career lane that no longer is the hot, trendy thing. For so many years, being a software engineer or being in sales, tech sales, it was just like you couldn't lose. But it's now looking like with AI coming up, coming into more prominence, those careers are not what they used to be. And there are now kind of more hotter, sexier. Yeah, I mean, they're claiming that they can automate a lot of that, right? And they don't need as many people. How do we reconcile the fact that record profits can still mean job layoffs and that if you are not positioned right, you can be let go even after 10, 15 years at a company, even after doing all the training, you're just in the wrong lane. Like, what does this mean for people coming into their career? Like, yeah, what does it mean? Like, we talked about last episode about people having multiple jobs and we might talk about that later, but like, there is no more loyalty anymore. So why should anyone else be loyal really as an employee, right?
It's really disappointing and it feels very like precarious now. Like, what is a reliable job in tech? If you listen to an episode of Techish a few years ago, we would have been like software engineers, coding boot camps, that's the future. Yep. That's changed. Then we could say, okay, well, if you're in a revenue generating role, if you're in sales, or marketing, lead generation, your job's always going to be safe because you're literally bringing money in. Now we're seeing those roles cut. So what is the safe job? What's the safe role?
The AI researcher person, right? So if you happen to have not had a PhD in AI research, then right now there is no safe job, right? And we have to connect those dots. We're seeing these offers, these insane offers that people are getting, $100 million to come and join Meta. Where's that money coming from? There's a direct correlation between that money and the money. Yeah, that money and the layoffs, right? Like those AI researchers are being valued at 1,000 employees, basically, right? And although these companies have record profits, I think the mindset they have is just ultimate paranoia. So I think they believe that whoever gets the AGI first or has really, really powerful AI, essentially that will disrupt search, social, work.
Yeah.
Even Excel can be highly automated. So what if somebody builds an AI tool that makes Excel surplus the requirements? Or what if someone builds an AI social first app where you're just scrolling through and watching just, AI content, right? That might completely negate what Meta's built up over the last years. And I think search has already been hurt a little bit as well, from my perspective, with existing tools. So I think these companies, although they're making crazy money, they think they're in existential situation, and this is probably what's going on. And also the stock market is rewarding them. Anyone who's investing in AI, or stocks going through the roof. Nvidia's now a $4 trillion worth of company. So it's just
$4 trillion.
I
just find this wild.
Yeah,
$4 trillion.
It's crazy, right? These numbers don't even seem human, and there's people starving, right? I think we probably need to do a separate episode on like what you could do for your career, because honestly, I'm out of ideas. I haven't got a clue what to tell people. People come to me and they're like, "Yo, what do I do? What do I?" I'm like, I don't know.
Where are the opportunities?
Like, where is the opportunity? Like, I run a job board. Some of you may know, right? So I can see like the roles people are applying for. And I'm seeing senior software engineers applying for like customer support roles. And these are people that, in previous, I'm seeing people who are senior in their career just saying anything will do right now. I need to find a way to make it work.
Wow. It's like
And
that.
it's like that. And people are not really talking about it too tough. Maybe people are, maybe, there's a level of embarrassment about it. But we've got to be honest, you're not alone. So I got a crazy stat here that there's been over 600,000 tech jobs that have vanished since 2022. There's another
How many?
platform called TrueUp, 600,000
Oh my gosh.
disappeared into the ether. TrueUp, which is another platform that Layoffs.FYI says the number's close to 700,000. But at least everyone agrees that it's past the
Wow.
500,000 mark. So it's been a bloodbath.
In
It's
the
been a
last 4
3-4 year
years.
bloodbath. Yeah, and it's not, and
Absolute bloodbath.
it's been multiple things, right? It was like COVID, they overhired. Okay, so you can kind of understand a little bit, right? Everyone got a bit hyped up. Then it was like, okay, we're going into the year of efficiency, and the stock market rewarded those companies. Like Meta came out and said, year of efficiency time. And just when everyone caught a breather, now this AI thing is coming out, and it's just like, yo, if you're not in that AI adjacent role, or you're not, some way additive towards the AI strategy, you're gone too. And it's like, when do people catch a break? And I don't know when that moment
Well, that's the thing.
is.
We don't know. We're in this period of disruption driven by Gen AI. And as you were saying, it's all about reallocating capital, trying to think of how to adapt and survive. Layoffs have been like a really effective way to do that. Restructuring is now a habit, a norm. It's a reset. It's like a cleaning of the carpets, a shaking out of the rugs. You do layoffs, you restructure, you stress test your team constantly. And I think it must be super exhausting for the people who are left behind. Fair enough in an enterprise company like Microsoft. These organizations have hundreds of thousands of people. I used to work at Amazon, and like the reality is, when you run a public company, you minimize risk by ensuring that each individual only has so much opportunity to mess things up. The scope of your role is not as big as it would be if you were like in a seed stage startup or a Series A stage startup. But what I think is so interesting is like how less mature tech companies are feeling that squeeze, because there are companies who have only raised Series C, D, E, etc. They haven't gone public. They're still privately held. They're still looking for their exit, who are also on this journey of restructuring, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how AI is going to play a role in their company, trying to react to how AI is affecting their market. And it's so hard to predict now what the future of the tech industry will look like. When you talk about companies of Microsoft's size and scale, succeeding in building profits and revenue, even with smaller team sizes, is that now the pattern? Like, do we see a future in 20 years' time where these companies are actually just lean money printing machines, leveraging the latest generative AI technology? And then in terms of the opportunities that we have, I mean, I'm kind of thinking about really unusual jobs. Like, there'll be a point in time where maybe an AI wants to actually be a human, right? Like they have consciousness, but they don't want to suffer the same prejudices that like maybe AI have, like what we were talking about in the last episode. So maybe a job for humans is to like be a coach, like be an AI coach. Like I'll help you pass as human. I don't know, but we're gonna have to be really creative with the jobs that we come up with.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely probably a far future type situation. It's
You
like,
never
what do we tell people
know.
in the next like 18 months though? Nah, I don't think
Oh,
we're
in the
there
next
just yet.
18 months. Okay.
I'm thinking like, because people need to put food on their plate, man. Like, what I'm saying, you can't tell them like, yo, this
Go to
job in
the older
25 years.
industries. You got to go. You need to leave the frontier. This is the thing. We've been at the frontier for a long time, right? We were like, here we
Right.
are. We're at the frontier of innovation. We're looking at the latest technologies. We're super excited. Whether it's, I don't know, like JavaScript or whatever things were cool before all you could vibe code. I think you now take all the knowledge that you've gained, all the credibility that you've gained, and you just go into industries that are like 10 years behind, because startups are
Possibly, yeah.
always pushing innovation, but there's very, very old industries that are still trying to catch up on that digital gap, whether it's like the energy sector, whether it's, I don't know, financial services, professional services, food, beverage, I don't know, logistics, supply chains. I just think tech
Yeah.
people, startups ain't so sexy no more in some ways. So take that knowledge and just go to, an older industry potentially. They still need tech
Ironically, though,
skills, tech teams.
but ironically, like Microsoft was seen as that stodgy, like tech company. Of all the tech companies, it was the kind of boring, kind of stable one, because it's like,
What, you
listen,
don't
we've
like
got
Teams?
Excel.
You don't like
I
you
mean,
don't
I'm
like you
talking,
don't like the Office suite?
but I'm saying the Office suite was a very like relatively stable profit center, and you wouldn't go to Microsoft and think, oh my god, they're gonna kind of upend their kind of whole business model, kind of thing, right? And it does feel like that's not the case anymore. So within tech, there isn't any more kind of safe refuge of like, this is a relatively stable tech company. The sad thing is, and I don't like the fact that this is the case, but everyone's just gonna have to get much more entrepreneurial. I'm somebody who is entrepreneurial, but I don't think it's for everyone. But I have to say that being entrepreneurial in this environment might be where all the rewards are, because it's never been easier to build. That's the irony. It's never been easier to build. It's never been easier to spin out products. It's never been easier to make money, probably as an individual now, because AI makes it so quick to build MVPs and, you know, do marketing and to have marketing materials. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just like done a mock-up of now like a poster, and then like I'll go in Canva and recreate it myself. But like that used to be the role of somebody else to come in and ideate and give me graphic design or whatever. So it's like you can do so much more now as an individual entrepreneurially, but is everyone cut out for that? They're not. And it's very hard still to make money individually, psychologically, spiritually, everything, right? Because it's not the same as clocking in, clocking out. So it's a twofold thing, right? Where like there's never been more kind of turmoil as an individual employee, but as an individual operator trying to build your own things, it's also never been easier. So I gotta say that, I gotta throw that out there, right? If you're entrepreneurially inclined, like this might be the time to make that leap. You've been laid off, try and raise a little seed capital if you can. Who's got some dough for you to kind of build something? Because that might be where you can keep your head down for the next 18 months and see how things fare. Because
Yeah, but also
people are
like
gonna get
let's
rich.
not like I mean yes and also like no, right? Like oh, like raise a little bit of seed capital, like you're putting it out there, like it's like so easy for people to do that. Like we know that there are so many like systemic barriers that make it difficult for people from our communities to access venture funding, and also it's about your risk appetite. Like you know, in theory, I agree with you, and we are both entrepreneurs, but I also like have compassion for people that genuinely just want to like have a job because they've got other
Me
things
too.
going on. And I think we're kind of in this space now in our industry where we've just lost the humanity, and it's like kind of ironic, right? Because it's like, oh, the rise of AI has been met with the decline in like just genuine compassion and empathy. And don't get me wrong, I know some companies are very, very good in how they handle restructuring. They give people a really long time window. They give people really healthy severance. They give people access to healthcare and access to benefits. Some organizations are doing it in a very compassionate way. Some organizations are not. And yeah, I do feel for people that like liked their job, lost their jobs, and just want to find another good job.
I'm there with you. That's why I said I hate the fact that I have to say this. And yeah, you're right. It's not easy to raise capital and stuff like that. Not at all. So yeah, it's a different struggle. Replacing one struggle with another.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you recommend? That's the thing. I'm actually at a loss. I think I'll come back on a separate episode with some more kind of tangible
I also
recommendations for folks and how to bounce back. And where's the career
think
safety?
I think one of the things that we are quite bad at in our community, so I'm talking about if you're used to being like one of the only people like you in the room, one of the few people like you in the room, that comes with its own, invisible baggage in terms of how you navigate the corporate space, even navigate the industry. And I think one thing that we need to do is like shake off the shame of asking for help. Like asking for help isn't a reflection
100%.
on like your lack of abilities or your lack of skills. And if you have been laid off, like I know people who were laid off months ago and they still haven't done a LinkedIn post because they're embarrassed or they're trying to figure stuff out. And I'm just like, no, like you need to be honest with your network because that's when the opportunities will find you. It might not be a full-time job, but someone might say, hey, listen, we're looking for a contractor to come on this project. I think you're aligned. Let's go. Or it could even be, hey, like, can you like do a little bit of freelancing or consulting with me? But sometimes we're just so ashamed to ask for help. And, even if you're not sure you want to do the job that you just got laid off for, maybe you're looking for other opportunities, other paths, whatever it might be, like the whole point of having a network is so you can ask it for help. And I'm not saying that you have to be that super transactional person, because when people get a whiff of desperation, of course, that's a put off. But I think you should have some kind of narrative around the fact that you've just lost an opportunity and you're looking for new ones, and be explicit with what your skills are, what you're good at, what you're open to, remote work, freelancing, contract, whatever. Even though a lot of permanent roles have been cut, companies are being really innovative, looking for fractional leadership or freelancers or contractors. So yeah, I think get over that shame factor and just tell your networks and ask for help and ask about opportunities. Go to events, go to industry events, go to meetups, go to conferences. Again, I'm not saying that if you just lost a 6-figure, amazing sales role, you're going to go right next step into another thing like that. But there could be a few really interesting baby steps happening now just by virtue of you putting yourself out there and talking to people.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, you mentioned LinkedIn. Don't sleep on LinkedIn. Don't sleep on Packet Jabs. If you're listening and you're looking for work, I gotta plug
Yeah.
my job board. I think the funny thing is when I do my work with Pocket Jobs, and I'm looking at people's LinkedIn profiles as well, because people submit their LinkedIn on their Pocket profile. There are a few just low hanging fruit mistakes that I see, and it just always I always want to pull my hair out.
Really? Like
Yeah,
what?
I do. So stuff when your profile is not aligned to what you're applying for, that's something where I'm just like, what can I do with this profile? Like, so for
Like
example, let's say
tailoring
you're a
it?
founder, tailoring it. Yeah, you're applying for like, I don't know, like sales roles at companies, you're applying for customer support, but then I go on your profile and it's just like, it's all just about whatever creative endeavor you're doing. It's about you're a founder, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. And I love that. Don't get it twisted in it. But at the same time, it's like maybe you need to have multiple LinkedIns. I'm going to be honest
Mm,
with you. If you want to be a founder and you want to start applying for founder stuff and getting VCs, have that one profile. You want to start saying, I need work, I need work. Have one that's just tailored towards that. Because I send that
nice.
profile to a recruiter and they're just like, who is this person and what is this person? I don't understand. And
Why
I
are you
get it though,
sending
because
me
people get,
this profile for
yeah,
this
exactly.
role?
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, well, don't you have the vision? They're like, no, listen, I'm a recruiter. These recruiters who are working internally, they're the most risk adverse
Mm,
people. They do not want to be recommending people who just don't make sense for any given position. So this is
yeah.
a very niche, like, flaw that I see, but I do see it time and time again where someone hasn't got necessarily an aligned LinkedIn profile. Whatever role you're going for, just make sure it's targeted about that, and that most of the content that you're posting is about your niche or whatever. Or if you're
That's
making a
smart.
career transition, make it about the career transition.
Nice.
So there's
I like
there's
that.
that, right? I also don't necessarily think we mentioned this before in previous episodes in a more kind of humorous way, but I'll be serious about it. I wouldn't recommend putting on the open to work thing. Just have your profile ready and put yourself in positions to apply. You don't necessarily need that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it necessarily helps or gives
Is
you
that
any
the
kind of
desperation
additional
thing I was
leverage.
talking about?
I think psychologically you want to look busy, right? And even if you've been laid off, you don't necessarily even need to put on your profile that you've been laid off. You can just say like,
Laid off
Microsoft,
badge.
whatever, whatever. Yeah, I mean, there was that one woman who did that, right? I don't know. I
Mm,
don't think it necessarily helps, right? And I'm trying to be helpful in my advice. But yeah, that's just off the top of the dome, like little things I see when it comes to people not necessarily putting themselves out and available. The other thing is, and this is not for people who have been laid off, this is people who are currently in work, in position, and this sounds so not privileged, but it just sounds like, oh, it's easier said than done. But you've really got to get your FU money ready. You've got to have your FU money ready. If someone comes to you right now, and I'm talking to people that I know, and they're like, yo, we got this great holiday idea. Let's go on a group trip. It's going to be 10K. Because sometimes these holidays can get really, really pricey. And let's say you've got a really cushy software engineering job. You're a really high level executive and you're earning six figures or close to or
no.
over that. Now's the time to be like, nah, I need 6 months runway.
Mm,
I need 9 months runway at bare cost. It could just be like, I need 9 months of 3K a month or
yeah.
9 months of 2K a month so I can at least pay some bills, right? Don't
Yeah.
get comfortable because nobody should be comfortable right now. And that's a scary thing to say, but like, don't be thinking you've got that
You need
bandwidth now
savings.
yeah, you need savings. I'm going to be honest with you. And that sounds so,
Dude, that's the
I wish
same
the
for
world wasn't that
founders
way.
as well. Like, do you think
100%.
Hustle Crew's selling anti-racism training in 2025 the way we did in 2020? Like, of course
100%.
not. And the
Yeah.
only reason we can keep the lights on is because of frugality, having cash
Yeah.
in the business and deciding to not have the big staff Christmas party, deciding to not go to the fancy restaurant for the staff dinner. Like, I had to start being frugal a while back just to make sure that I could still continue paying my team now. And I'm sure they would rather still be having a salary now than like having that fancy dinner before. And to your point about like professionals being of the mindset that they could be laid off and it could take over a year to find another job, because that is the timeline, people. It ain't quick.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't easy.
It ain't
The
quick.
more
Nope.
senior you are, the higher your salary, the longer it takes you to find a similar level job. That's just the facts. I know many, many
Mm-hmm.
senior people who are well past that for year one of finding a full-time job. But what I was going to say was I listened to this podcast and it was super interesting because they're basically saying that like, unless you can afford like 4 times the value, 4 times the price tag of whatever it is you're going to buy, you can't afford it.
Yep.
So for example, like if your holiday was £300, right? And you could actually afford a £1,200 holiday if you wanted to, then you should go on that £300 holiday. But if your holiday is £1,000 and you couldn't afford a £4,000 holiday, then you shouldn't even go on
Chill.
the £4,000 holiday.
Yeah, that's real.
And
That's a
that
great
really
that's a
made me
great rule of
laugh.
thumb.
Yeah.
That's a great rule of thumb. Unfortunately, we live in a world people are kind of using credit and debt and all kinds of things to make it happen. I think, yeah, chill off the Instagram. If anything on Instagram is making you feel FOMO that you got to spend, now's the time to
Facts,
shut that thing
bruv.
down and shut that thing down and
Facts.
say, do you know what? My salary is
Facts.
X, but actually I need 25% of X stashed away, or 10% of X stashed away, or 5% of X stashed away, whatever number is reasonable to you, so that
Honestly.
there's a better day tomorrow. Because like, listen, man, F the FOMO, F missing out. Like right now, this is like you said, like Abba said, like you might need a year of runway, just like any entrepreneur would.
All of the generators of envy and desire should be like removed from your life, like they're addictive drugs, whether that is Instagram, TikTok, honestly, even magazines. Like, I will not want to shop because I have more than enough clothes I could ever wear. There are clothes where I'm just like, oh, I haven't even worn you like this year. I won't want to shop. And then I'll just buy a magazine for fun because I'm getting on a train or whatever. By the time I finish that magazine, I'm scrolling on the websites, seeing if they have my size. And I'm like, oh
Got
my
you.
gosh, I'm so influenceable. So yeah, anything that generates desire or envy, if you are, in the current economy, thinking about the future, cut it out. Cut it out.
Cut
Listen
it
to more
out. All right, cool.
techish.
Yeah, because listen, we're gonna put you in, in the right mental framework to understand what's really going on. I've had people tell me that they've listened to the show and then like, they've made that leap to start a company, or they made that leap to like cut cost in their company, or they made that leap to start looking for new work because we just one throwaway line from us, what I'm saying, might just put your whole
Gurus.
career in a new trajectory and get to the bag. All right, cool, everyone. That's been this episode. That's been this week's Techish Story. We'll catch you next week at Techish Pod on Instagram, at Techish Pod on other platforms as well. Subscribe to our Patreon. You might have missed out on an additional story, which you most likely did. We'll catch you next week. All right. Peace, everyone. Ciao. So I think let's do a Patreon story because I think it's related to what we've just talked about. I was very interested to see the feedback pertaining to Soham. So Soham was the guy who had 4, 5 to 10 startup jobs, right? And
King of overemployment.
the king of overemployment, right? But when we posted the clip on, socials, a lot of the feedback was like,
to watch the full episode, subscribe at patreon.com/techish. You'll get access to all full-length episodes, no adverts, the chance to submit your questions into the show, and early bird discounted tickets to our live shows. Subscribe for as little as $5 a month.